I'm Gretchen Whisler, 2013 Tustin Area Woman of the Year. And this is Margaret Pottenger, Tustin Area Woman of the Year 1966, the first Woman of the Year. And Margaret, you're going to tell us how that all happened.
Well, I will tell you how it happened. They wanted to make me Man of the Year. They couldn't name me Man of the Year, so they created a new position. And they told me they chose me because they liked my legs. Back in those days, we wore miniskirts. Everybody wore miniskirts. You wore miniskirts. And
we were younger then, but we were younger then, Margaret.
I was young enough to wear miniskirts.
Yeah.
Anyway, first Woman of the Year in 1966.
How were you chosen?
Well, the funny thing is, the way they chose people in those days, I think, is superior to the way they do it now. The former Men of the Year sat around a little table and they said to each other, "Who's done something this year? Who's done something this year?" And then they'd toss out a couple of names of people who had done something this year. And they would sort of balance it and decide which one was going to be the Man of the Year. And of course, the year that they nominated me, I had done everything, and they wanted to name me Man of the Year, but they couldn't name me Man of the Year. So they created a new position, Woman of the Year. So that's how I became the first Woman of the Year. And believe it or not, I'm probably the longest living Woman of the Year. Yes.
We're very fortunate that you are.
Still alive.
Still kicking. Area Man, Woman of the Year. Or actually Man of the Year.
This was all part of the annual installation of officers for the Tustin Chamber of Commerce, which was the organization in town that did everything. They had school bonds and sewer bonds, and they built the city hall. They did all these things were done by the Chamber of Commerce in those days. Mm-hmm. And Bill Moses, who owned the Tustin News, was the spearheader of practically everything, including the Chamber and the Man of the Year. He was one of our first Men of the Year. And anytime that Bill came up with an idea, everybody latched onto it and did it. So he started the Man of the Year.
Okay.
And Jack Hall was our first Man of the Year, who was very active in civic activities.
And that was 1957, I think?
That's what they said.
Yeah.
57.
Wow.
Well, I came here in 59. And when I came here, the Women's Club had just started in Tustin. It had been there for about a year. And the Women's Club was sponsoring the Miss Tustin contest.
Oh.
And they decided they didn't want to run the Miss Tustin contest anymore, so they came knocking on my door the day I opened and said, "You're going to run the Miss Tustin contest," which I did for 10 years. I ran the Miss Tustin contest.
Very good.
Thanks to the Women's Club not wanting to do it anymore.
Yeah. Right.
And that was probably my real claim to fame, why they chose me as Woman of the Year. They've claimed that they wanted me to be Man of the Year, but they just couldn't bring themselves to name me Man of the Year. So here I am, Woman of the Year.
Right. And that year you shared the honor with the Man of the Year.
Yes,
so they had
we
for the
shared
first
them
time.
together.
First time they had the Man and Woman of the Year.
That was the first.
Right.
And we had our installations up at the Red Hill Tennis Club.
Oh.
Red Hill Tennis Club.
Okay.
Everything in Tustin was at the Red Hill Tennis Club.
So was it during the installation that they would give the award, or was that
It
a
was-
special time that they did the award?
I think they had their installation first and then the awards.
Oh.
But this was something that was really a big deal in those days. As I say, it was part of for years it was part of the chamber installation.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Wasn't the way it is now.
no.
No.
A few years later, they decided to separate and become an autonomous organization, separate from the chamber. In fact, most of the people who go to the dinner probably don't even know there is a chamber anymore.
Well, I'm sure that it's still around, though.
It's still
just,
around.
yeah. A lot of wonderful people belong to the chamber.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go.
Margaret, tell us about the first Man of the Year.
The first Man of the Year, Jack Hall, managed the Ut Juice Company.
Oh,
The famous Ut Juice Company, which is down on the corner. And it was
Prospect in Maine.
It was one of the major industries of Tustin. In fact,
Yes.
it was the major industry.
Right.
And Jack was the manager down there. And Jack, in the olden days, everybody used to meet, the downtown people used to meet at the corner drugstore for coffee at 10 o'clock in the morning. And when Jack was at the coffee klatch, he met his future wife, Ann Hall. And Ann was a teller at the bank across the street. And they fell in love. And one weekend they decided to get married. Can you believe it? Get married. Well, Jack Hall and Ann were going off to Las Vegas to get married. And Ann's daughter, Sharon Reyes, was a customer of mine. And she came in, she was probably 16 years old, came into the store in tears because her mother was running off and getting married. Bad. Anyway, she was very unhappy, and the girls that worked for me and the teenagers that worked in the store comforted her, convinced her that it probably wasn't such a bad thing that her mother was getting married. Well, years later, Sharon Reyes became Miss Tustin. And when Sharon was Miss Tustin, Jack Hall escorted her out on the stage.
That's sweet.
So they kissed and made up, obviously.
Yes, good
But
story.
that was Tustin history.
Yeah. So he was the first one.
He was the first one, and Bill Moses, I guess, was the second one.
So you say that Bill Moses started the Tustin
Chamber
Man
of Commerce.
and the Tustin Woman of the Year
Yes.
way back. When was Bill Moses Man of the Year?
I think he was the second Man of the Year.
Okay, so that
And
was
the-
in the 50s.
And then Gene Jacobson was the Man of the Year, and he owned Tustin Square, the first shopping center in Tustin. He and his brother built that.
So it sounds like all of them were active not only philanthropically in Tustin, but they also had businesses in Tustin.
Yes.
So they were the ones that decided on having things like Tiller Days and Miss
Right.
Tustin contests, and then people like you came along and started working with that, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah. So, Margaret, after you became Woman of the Year and you had Earl Rowenhorst as the Man of the Year that year, what roles did you play the following year? Were you involved in choosing the next
Yes,
years?
we
Okay.
were.
How did that work out?
We
How
met
did that do?
at a table like this, all
Uh-huh.
the formers, and somebody would say, "Who's done something this year?"
Okay, so it morphed into more of you being
The ones who nominated and
the
chose.
ones, the life members.
Right.
who started then choosing the next two. So that was like in 1966, 67,
And
right?
we didn't have any organizations who had to nominate somebody.
So you decided.
We were it.
So you said, okay, how about this person? And then,
That's right.
um,
And we knew everybody, so, well, Tustin was a much smaller place.
did they know they were being nominated? Did you say anything, or did you just choose one and then say, guess what, you're
Be at the meeting.
be at the meeting? And then they'd say, why? And you'd say, we can't tell you.
Big dark secret.
So there wasn't.
Wear your best dress.
So there weren't a group of them that were up for it and one
No.
was chosen.
No.
Okay. They just, you sat around and you decided, you talked about
Who?
all the people that were important in
Active in-
Tustin and active in Tustin.
Isn't that?
And then it was a surprise for that person that night, though, still.
I can't remember if it was a surprise or not. I guess it was.
Yeah. You talked to me about one time when you met for the dinner and to let everyone know who had made Tustin Man Woman of the Year. And this person who was going to be Woman of the Year didn't come. She didn't.
Oh, yes.
No, she forgot or something. And she didn't know she was going to be Woman of the Year. And they had to call her on the phone.
Well, this is when we had our installation down at the, what's the Hyatt now, at the Back Bay. And in the big round room, we had our installation down there. And Tony's right. I think she knew she was supposed to be there, and she didn't show up.
Oh, no.
So
Oh, no.
somebody had to call her and say, "Get down here. We're about ready to name you."
Ooh. Okay, but yeah, that's interesting. Okay.